Saturday Night Live had a wonderful skit called Lyle, the Effeminate Heterosexual. And it played with the truth, and it is a truth, that effeminacy and sexual preference or sexual orientation does not perfectly correlate. There are some very effeminate men who are heterosexual. In fact, the most effeminate man that I ever knew in my entire life was, and I'm as sure as one can be about these things, heterosexual. Okay? And in fact, this particular man was so effeminate that he was almost a parody of effeminacy. He actually would do something that my ex-husband said that he'd never seen an actual gay man do, which was flick his wrist. When he would was making a point, he would flick his wrist. Now that's something that comedians who are imitating gay men tend to do, or straight people who are making fun of gay men tend to do. But my ex-husband said he'd never seen an actual gay man do it. But he'd seen this guy who, we believed was heterosexually oriented, but was extremely effeminate do. Okay? And I think that is a phenomenon that is not uncommon, that men can have, effeminate mannerisms and an effeminate style without being attracted to other men. Okay, Grizzly Man, Tim Treadwell, had effeminate mannerisms. I think that was one problem he had throughout his life, was that he was attracted to women, but he tended to attract men. He tended not to be attractive to the sex that he was interested in, and probably to get a lot of passes from the sex that he was not interested in. And I think that may have caused him quite a few problems. Of course, when he did get a girlfriend, it caused her much worse problems, because the woman who fell in love with him ended up getting not murdered, but killed in a very horrible way. And while she was an adult and she could have just said no, it is also true that he was irresponsible in taking her along with him to that park, because he should have known that it was putting the woman he loved in a great deal of danger. But anyway, that's kind of beside the point. But I do think that we shouldn't assume on the basis of somebody's mannerisms or style what their sexual orientation or preferences are. And it's also true that a lot of cross-dressers, a lot of men who like to cross-dress are heterosexually oriented. And of course, a lot of very masculine men are homosexually oriented. And it's the same with women, You could have a woman who's very butch, very masculine in her affect and style, and is attracted to men. A woman very feminine who is attracted to women. But anyway, I think that Saturday Night Live, you got to leave it to Saturday Night Live, and they did. It was very funny, and it did make an interesting point and a good point.